Well, it's mid-July as I'm recording this, and the majority of the heavy lifting for the Calgary Flames has seemingly come and gone. Uh, as we've discussed on the channel, Flames made 10 selections at the 2024 NHL Draft in Vegas, and then they did a little bit of adding in the free agency market. So, considering that we have the better part of 2 months before the Calgary Flames convene for the Penticton Young Stars tournament and then main camp following that, uh, we had some time to kill. And what better way to kill some time than with what we're affectionately calling the way too early roster projections? So we're going to do position by position and then do a quick rundown of kind of how we see the Flames and the Wranglers shaping up so far. So, first of all, let's start with the netminders, because goaltending might be one of the more peculiar positions for the Calgary Flames this coming season. Obviously, since the beginning of the summer, they have divested themselves of Jacob Markstrom, and they haven't really added anybody. So, it is more or less Wolf season. We project right now that Dan Vladar, barring his health, he's recovering from hip surgery, and Dustin Wolf will be the NHL tandem, and the American Hockey League, it'll be Devin Cooley and first-year North American pro Valtteri Ignatjew, and behind them in Wranglertown is AHL goaltender Connor Murphy, who was their third stringer last year and performed pretty well when Dustin Wolf was up at the NHL. So, I think we'll see. Murphy is a dark horse for me to get an NHL deal at some point. He was really good in spurts last year. Did not play a ton, though, so he'll probably be shuttling back and forth between Rapid City and the Wranglers, depending on the availability of other people. So, assuming that Vladar is 100% to start the camp, I'm assuming that we're going to see Wolf and Vladar in the NHL and Cooley and Ignatjew in the American League, which would probably push Connor Murphy down to Rapid City. So, that's the goaltenders. Fairly simple. Moving on to the defensemen. All right, here's how the blue line group matches up. We'll put these guys in pairings later on. So the NHL group, the seven who seem like they're going to be playing with a big club to start: Mackenzie Weegar, Danil Miramanov, Rasmus Anderson, Jake Bean, Kevin Ball, Braden Paul, and Joel Hanley. And that would mean at the American League level, there would have this seven: Ilya Solovyov, Yan Kuznetsov, Artem Grushnikov, Jeremy Poirier, Yoni Yermo, Hunter Rustevich, and Jonathan Aspero. And they have Etienne Morin and Zane Parekh both signed to entry-level deals. They will slide. We assume that Parekh will get an extremely long look at main camp, but we'll get into it when we get into the sort of the roster composition of each team. But I don't see how throwing Parekh into the NHL as an 18-year-old wouldn't be the best thing for him. Same with Morin. Morin, he's 19, but both these guys, I think, will have big years in junior. So, 7 in the NHL, 7 in the AHL, and those two guys back to junior. On to the forwards. Alrighty. The forwards, I kind of see them going like this, and part of this is based on merits, and others based on contract. Part of it's based on waiver status. So you'll see what I mean in a second. So the forwards on the NHL level look to be something like this: Jonathan Huberdeau, Nazem Kadri, Andrei Kuzmenko, Yegor Sharangovich, Michael Backlund, Blake Coleman, Martin Pospisil, Connor Zary, Anthony Mantha, Ryan Lomberg, Kevin Rooney, Walker Duehr, and I would also probably at the NHL level pencil in someone like Dryden Hunt. And I believe I'm also going to clump in Jacob Pelche into the NHL group. Dryden Hunt is a left shot. He can play everywhere. Pelche, left shot. He's got waivers this year, and I think based on how highly touted Pelche was in his draft year, if you're a team that's not great or has an empty forward spot, I wouldn't want to risk losing Pelche. So we'll see. This is assuming he has a good camp. If he has a terrible camp, they'll throw him on waivers and plunk him in the AHL because, I don't think you want to be forcing guys onto the NHL roster who haven't earned it via merit. But, I mean, Pelche, he's a highly touted prospect, and he's shown in the past he can be a very effective pro. So I think, at this rate, I'd imagine that the Flames carry 14 forwards because they have oodles of cap space. But I also think they're going to be shuttling guys up and down all year depending on how things go. So that's kind of how I project the NHL group. The AHL group will be who's left, basically. Matt Coronado, Adam Klapka, Cole Schwindt, William Stromgren, Sam Morton, Martin Ferk, Justin Kirkland, Sam Honzik, Clark Bishop, Rory Cairns, Lucas Siona, Ilya Nikolaev, Parker Bell, and 3 guys in NHL deals, David Silye, I probably got with one of those pronunciations, Trevor Janicki, and Alex Gallant. And Matt Vigradin, the Flames' first-round pick, 28th overall this year, he is another slide guy. He has an NHL deal, but I don't know if you're going to force him to play pro hockey this year. Even I think technically he's eligible to play in the AHL until he starts in the queue, but I don't see where he'd fit, and I don't think you really want to force him into that spot quite yet. So that's the forward group. Let's check out some extremely early and almost definitely inaccurate lines. All right, let's get into the forward lines. Bear in mind, these are entirely based on me pulling things out of thin air and guys who may or may not have played together last year and worked out pretty well. So one thing you'll notice is I have slotted in Connor Zary right now, at least to start as a center. But I mean, I also think that Zary could swap with Pospisil here and there. My first line, there are no real defined first lines for the Flames. I have Sharangovich, Kadri, Kuzmenko as a trio with Kadri in the middle. Then Huberdeau, Zary, and Mantha with Zary up the middle. You could also swap Pospisil into that center spot, and I think that could work pretty well, especially because Mantha's got some size to him, but we'll see. I have Pospisil right now on the wing with Backlund and Coleman. The fourth line, if you can call it that, Pelche, Rooney, and Lomberg. I really like Pelche and Lomberg as forecheckers, and I think Rooney's a good center. I don't know if long-term you necessarily want to have Pelche on the fourth line, but I think it's an opportunity to sort of ease him into the NHL with some really structured minutes. And Duer and Dryden Hunt are my extra forwards. I think you'd basically bury the Backlund and Rooney lines in the defensive zone, and that way Kadri's line and Zary's line would have enough opportunities to really move the needle offensively. So that's kind of how I built those lines. On the blue line, Uyghur Miromanov, Bean Anderson, Ball, Pahal, and Hanley as the seventh. Kind of the same philosophy as I had for the forwards. Bean and Anderson, I think you stack up in the defensive zone. Ball and Pahal, you can stack them up in the defensive zone, and Uyghur Miromanov, you sort of flex around based on game situations. But, Bean and Anderson, I think, could really move the needle offensively, but I think you need to give them the opportunities and the situations to do that. Uyghur, I think, is a bit more all over the place in that he can play everywhere you need him to. So I think him, Miromanov, at least a start, would work out really well. But, we'll see with that. And Vladar and Wolf sort of basically alternating starts and playing the play until you lose kind of philosophy. The Wranglers lines, once I actually got into these, are kind of weird and fun and interesting, and I think kind of showcase a lot of the interesting looks the Wranglers could provide. I'm starting like this: Honzik, Schwindt, Coronado, Stromgren, Morton, Klapka, Kirkland, Bishop, Ferk, Siona, Cairns, Bell, and then the extra forwards I have are Nikolaev, Gallant, Silye, and Janicki. I think the fourth line and the four extras could basically just churn and mix and match and do a whole bunch of different things with it. I have a feeling we're going to see a few names head down to Rapid City at some point, especially amongst the forward group. But I think, you want to give Honzik offensive situations. And I think, Schwind is a really reliable center. Him and Morton, I think, could swap pretty much anywhere in the top six, and I think would work. And Stromgren and Klapka were both really, really good last year. So I think that the top two lines that I have projected for the Wranglers could do a lot of different things. And even Martin Ferk, I think, is a guy who could, you could use him if somebody gets called up, if someone gets hurt. You could use him in a lot of different situations too. So I think that gives you a little bit of an extra dynamic. And I think, if you look at the way that group is composed, with 4 extra guys, that's kind of why I wouldn't want to have Matt Vigradin come in, because even at the NHL level, there's not really a defined spot for him. I mean, when you have Jacob Pelletier playing the fourth line because you can't really find a spot for him in the top 9, that's kind of what you would have for the Wranglers too. So that's kind of where my logic is there. The defensive group I find really fascinating because you could mix and match these guys in so many different ways. I'm starting off kind of like this: Poirier, Aspero, Yermo, Brustevich, Grushnikov, Solovyov, and Kuznetsov as the 7. Grushnikov, Solovyov would be your defensive zone and tough minutes pairing, and then Poirier, Aspero, I think you'd really lean on them to be your offensive zone guys. Aspero was great on the power play last year, but he played on the third pairing at 5-on-5 because he's not a great two-way defenseman. So I think you're basically banking on Poirier sort of that part of his game evolving, and I think if you swap those guys away from each other, it might just be because they're almost too close to each other in terms of playing style. Yermo and Brustevich played together a bit at development camp, and they look really good. I think they complemented each other very well. Kuznetsov is sort of a guy that I think he might sort of rotate into the third pairing a bit, but for him, my big challenge is I don't know exactly where he fits in because he is more of a complementary piece, and he could play with a lot of different guys, but I think there's arguably a better partner for basically everyone else on the team, save aside from Kuznetsov. But he's still good, and I think he'll still contribute. But it's just a challenge of figuring out where he slots in. And goaltenders Cooley and Ignatiu, with Murphy slotting in whenever he's up. So I don't think the Flames are done making moves, but I think they're done making major moves. And, now that we've put this out in the universe, I can almost guarantee that my lines and my opening rosters will be wrong, as you definitely, the reason you do way too early projections is to be wrong. And hopefully I'm wrong in interesting ways because, I sort of put together these lines and pairings and rosters based on kind of a conservative estimate of how guys will project and how guys will perform at camp. And the fun thing about professional sports, and especially training camps, is you don't know who's going to come in and knock the doors off. I mean, I don't think anyone necessarily looked at the Flames last year and thought to themselves after training camp, who's going to come in and basically save the team's bacon this season? Zari and Pospisil. They had decent camps, but none of those guys really were the guys you pointed to and went, hot damn, they're going to be the cavalry. And they were. So I think that's going to be the really fun thing to emerge in September and October, to see which guys do really step up and surprise us. Because, life's the fun thing about life is the surprises, especially in sports. And I think, we got to leave ourselves open to that. So that's all I got for now. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you really like the video, hit the subscribe button. Tell your friends. Put something in the comments telling me what you want to see from me next, and I'll keep adding stuff to the channel throughout the summer. I'll probably take a bit of a hiatus in August just to lay on the couch and enjoy the last month before hockey gets going, and then expect sort of a fire hose of content from me in September and October. So that's all from me for now.